Okay, sit yourself onto your lift and then come into a good cross-legged position. Just have a little wriggle about, make sure that you feel you are sitting evenly. So there's evenness at the hips, and then hold onto your knees. Elevate your heart area up to the ceiling, and then draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Move your eyes down to look at the floor. Sorry, I don't think I've put my... Just hold to your knees, lift the chest, draw your shoulders down, and look down at the floor. Allow your eyes to look at something that doesn't move, so that they become still in the sockets. Focus on filling the lungs from the bottom to the top, filling both lungs evenly. And emptying both lungs from the top to the bottom. And then release your knees, bring your hands into Namaste. Pressing the palms firmly together, lengthening from the armpits into the elbows. Close your eyes with an exhalation. And listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Just focusing on filling the lungs and emptying them. Consciously taking in the energy of the environment around you, allowing that to ingest through the lining of the lungs into the blood. And then the heart pumps that oxygenated blood around the physical body. So conscious breathing brings about a deeper foundation of energy. Gently draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Just release the backs of your hands down to your knees, holding on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area. And then raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. So I was reading an article about a pranayama technique called 478. That's obviously not the original name for it, but it's used by stress managers. It to calm down the body and mind, and it's described as the Xanax of pranayama, which I think is slightly a bit of a cheesy branding thing, isn't it? But it calms you down, and it gives you focus. So all it is you breathe in for a count of 4 or for 4 seconds, and then you hold the breath. You retain the breath for 7, and then you exhale for 8. So you do that 3 times, and it just helps to lower your blood pressure, and it brings kind of just calmness to the brain as well. So if you're getting kind of stress, headaches, and things like that, it can help with that. So you breathe in for 4, and then you retain the breath for 7. So when you take a deep in breath for 4, and then you hold that breath, but it's never a grip. Sometimes when you hold the breath, you hold it like that, and that's never good. So when you retain the breath, you're literally just suspending the diaphragm. So the diaphragm just stops either moving up or down. You just suspend it. You just kind of gently hold it in place. So there should be never any grip. There should neither be grip in the neck, around the throat, or around the head, or especially around the temples. So when you retain the breath, you only do so with just this suspension of the diaphragm, so that it doesn't feel like it's an intense grip. It's just a moment of neither breathing nor not. So you breathe in for 4, you retain the breath for 7, and then you exhale for 8. Just do it 3 times. So you do it over the course of a minute. So let's give that a go. 4, 7, 8. So this is useful to do if you're kind of feeling anxious or stressed. Just take some normal breaths. You can close your eyes. Just normal breathing for the moment. Just recognizing your current breath pattern. Just observing your breath as you inhale and exhale. Take a normal inhalation, then a normal exhalation, and then we'll begin. So 4, 7, 8. And then when you've completed 3 cycles, just come back to normal breathing. Just observe any subtle changes, in the front brain. Maybe there is that sense of calm that comes with coming out of a forward bend. So hold onto your knees, elevate your heart area up to the ceiling, and with an exhalation, turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across, drawing your ribs and your shoulders. So I guess 4, 7, 8 is a useful way to start the day. You don't need to do it very often. It just says once a day. But I guess if you're in moments of anxiety or you're stressed about something, then just 3 rounds of 4, 7, 8 can just allow you the time to bring yourself into the present moment, observing the breath, helping the anxiety to minimize. Come back to the center, hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest, elevating the heart to the ceiling. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the left. I think one of the other things that the breath does for us is brings our conscious attention into the present moment. And I think that's really valuable. You know, we've got 2 cats. I always, when I spend time with the cats, if they're sitting on your lap or if they're sitting on the sofa or whatever, I always just really try to draw myself into this precise moment to spend the time with them, because you know they're not going to be here forever, and it's just that little magic moment of togetherness that you observe. Come back to the center, and of course that is the case with people as well. So if you're spending time with others, then just don't think about what you're doing later. Just bring your attention into that precise moment and just cherish that moment of magical connection. Come forwards into Adho Mukha Virasana. If you've got a headache, then get a block underneath your head and then push your forehead into the block. Just come high rather than going all the way down. Just applying a little bit of pressure on the area between the eyebrows. So the breath is a remarkable conduit into the present moment. And we breathe so many times a day that it's easy to just completely disregard it. We breathe thousands of times a day and we don't even notice. But the breath is our energy. It's the opportunity to live, to be here, to listen, to feel, to taste, to see, to smell, to breathe. And that's really magic. That opportunity to be here, to be surrounded by things that we love. That's lucky and magical. So drawing our focus into the present moment, that is the key to just suddenly taking stock of the things that we are lucky for. Come up onto your knees. You can keep the block for your head for dog down, or you can put a block underneath your head if you've got a headache. Just come up into Adho Mukha Svanasana. Just listen to the breath. Listen to the breath. Fill the lungs from the bottom to the top. Just savor this precise moment now. We're drawn into the moment by the sensations of the breath, sensations of the pose. So spend a little time just being here. Give yourself permission to switch off from the things you have to do today, the things that you did yesterday. Just be on your mat, using the breath as the conduit into the pose, because it's difficult to switch off the brain. But if we allow ourselves to follow the breath, to listen and really feel the breath, then we come into the body. We become present. So learning to listen and to hear. Learning to not just listen to the sound energy, we listen to the physical responses to the body. If I'm holding you too long in the pose, then you can rest. If you can stay and maintain and just be in the moment with the breath, feeling the sensations of the body, drawing your conscious attention away from the areas of resistance and into the areas of non-resistance, if there are any. And then step your feet forwards, come up into standing position. Just grab a couple of blocks and just have those for your hands. Bring your feet as wide apart as the mat with the toes turned in. Stamp the big toe into the floor, stretch the little toes out to the side. And then elevate the heart area upwards. Squeeze the elbows towards each other. Raise your arms up, extend your arms up to the ceiling. And then hinge at the hips. And then reach down. Reach down, find the blocks underneath your shoulders. Be on your fingertips. Activate the legs. Activate the seat bones, the chest, extending the spine away from the legs. Just observe the physical responses to the pose. Are you working with evenness? Can you feel the evenness of action of the legs? Are you bringing your weight into your heels, or is your weight at the front of the toes? So hit your weight back, hit the shins back so that your weight goes into your heels. And then feel how the legs respond to that action. If you can go down lower, then do. But all the time, just observing. Just giving yourself, we're not just doing this because it stretches out the muscles. Obviously that's a good benefit, but we're doing it because it feels good. And it feels better when we become conscious within the physical body. When we allow the body and the mind to commune. So if any external thoughts seek to intrude, we'll just acknowledge that and then draw your attention back into physical sensations of the pose. If you can reach around the backs of your heels, then do, but just work with your own limitations and restrictions. If you've got a bad back, just stay on a higher lift. Just work with your own body, communicate with your physical body. And then just, if you've got hold of your heels, just come back into half uttanasana, and then bring your hands into your hips, bend your knees on the way up if you need to, and then come up into standing position into Tadasana. So just lift up into the chest, but observe the physical body from the feet. So feel, just let your body sway from front to back, and just feel how that changes your weight in your feet. So can you arrange the legs so that your weight goes into your heels? And then turn the shins inwards, the fronts of the shins from the little toe side to the big toe side. Tighten the kneecaps, turn the thighs inwards, tuck the tailbone in, lift from the abdomen to the diaphragm, to the collarbone, to the chin, keeping the shoulders down. Just listening to the breath. Turning the palms of the hands all the way out to the sides of the room so that you rotate in the upper arms, in the sockets, broadening the chest. Just breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations. So just be in Tadasana. Just keep your attention in the physical body, using the breath as the conduit into the physical body. Observe how little fluctuations of balance continually occur. Bring your arms out nice and wide in toward your chest, and then step or jump your feet apart for Trikonasana. Turn your left toes in, your right leg and foot all the way out. Just feel how your feet connect to the ground. Activate the legs evenly so that when we come down, this back leg especially feels as though it remains part of the pose. It doesn't get forgotten about. Turn the chest up to the ceiling. Just look up, feel the sensations of the physical pose. So just be in the pose. We've all been doing this pose for a long time. So just be in the pose and try to draw in elements of the pose that you have learned in the past, but maybe you're not activating right now. Just scan the body for sensation. Keep the attention in the physical body. Be in the moment. Savor the sensations of the pose. Come back to the center. So that's an odd thing to say, perhaps, isn't it? Savor the sensations of the pose, because sometimes, we've all been to classes where, maybe the pose doesn't always feel amazingly great at that precise moment in time. But it's just about drawing your focus in. And if there are areas of discomfort, so maybe, for example, your ankle starts to hurt. So then think about, well, what is my foot doing? What is my shin doing? How can I activate those areas to take the pressure off that ankle? Often it's just going back to the opposite limb and activating the ankle on that side more, so that the ankle on that side doesn't get as much discomfort. So there's savoring the moment, and it's a moment of observation, a moment of activation. So just listen to the pose, and wherever there feel like there are problems or you're struggling to activate a particular area, think around it. Think the opposite. So the opposite limb. See if you can activate by activating around the problem area. All the time keeping the breath conscious, smooth and deep. So if the balance is fluctuating a lot, you go to the legs. How can you firm up the foundation? Come back to the center. Bring the feet parallel. And then step or jump your feet together. Come back into Tadasana. And just observe the feeling of the body. Can you observe any areas of response to the previous pose? And soften those areas with the breath. Spread the toes of the left foot. Bend your right foot, your right knee, and then bring the right foot as high up into the thigh as you can for Vrksasana. Use something to just nearby to help you to balance if you need to. Really activate that standing leg. Before you try to raise your arms, activate that standing leg. Press the little toe really firmly into the floor so that you can suck the outer thigh in towards the foot. Squeeze in the foot into the thigh into the foot. Lengthening the inner groin to the inner knee. Squeeze in that front leg buttock bone forwards. And then raise your arms. So ideally, having the arms parallel to each other is better. So I run out of ceiling height a little, so I have to just adapt. Be in the pose from the foot to the leg, to the hips, to the abdomen, to the breath. Release your arms, release the leg. Just feel how the legs respond to the pose. Just observe how your breath responds to the pose. Coming back into Tadasana. Just listening to the sound of the breath, listening to the body. Observing how the legs feel different. Spread the toes of the right foot. Really activate that standing leg. Bend the left knee. Bring that left foot as high up into the thigh as you can, keeping that standing leg firm. Stamping the little toe into the floor. Sucking the outer thigh in, squeezing the foot into the thigh. That brings stability. Just observe your balance. Raise your arms. Just maintain your focus in the moment. Maintaining the breath. Okay, release your arms. Release the leg. And then be back in Tadasana. Just feel the lightness of the limbs. How the bones radiate into the muscles, bringing lightness, especially into the legs. Raise your arms in Urdhva Hastasana, reaching up. And then bring your feet hip width apart, turn your toes in a little. And then hook your thumbs into the crease of the elbows. If you've got a bad back, then just hinge at the hips and then stretch your arms towards the wall or towards the back of a chair. Otherwise, come forwards, hinging at the hips and then hang down. So sometimes we think of poses like Tadasana and Uttanasana as transitional poses. Ones that we just come back to while we're not doing a pose. But actually, Tadasana is quite possibly the most important of all the standing poses, because we learn how to lift, we learn how to defy gravity, we learn how to stand. And through those actions, we learn how to do all of the standing poses, all of the seated poses. Through Uttanasana, we refresh our energy, but we're still working the legs as though they're in just wide-legged Tadasana. Turning the thighs inwards. There's still activation to be done. The more we activate the legs, the more we can lengthen and release in the spine. So they're never just transitional poses. They are essential moments of our practice. Just release your hands down to the floor, and then walk your hands towards the end of your mat. Come back into dog down. Have your hands shoulder width apart. Have your feet hip width apart. And then you can support your head if you've still got a headache with a bolster or a block. Just be in dog down. Just in constant observation of the feeling of the pose, bringing our attention into the present moment. Feel the pose from the inside. Soften the jaw and the tongue and the throat, and just be with the breath, filling the lungs from the bottom to the top, emptying from the top to the bottom. And then just come down, sit back on your heels, and just observe the energy that almost rushes into the body, lifting the heart area and the torso up to the ceiling, defying gravity. Just observe that feeling of genuine energetic lightness. Just sit in that lightness. Distribute it evenly around the body with the breath. And then keep the seat bones down on the heels and come forwards into Adho Mukha Virasana. So use a bolster for your head or for your chest, or just come down to the floor. So use a bolster if you're trying to keep the abdominal region open. Keep the seat bones hitting down onto the heels, stretching deeply into the arms. Allow pressure onto the forehead. Raise your head for a moment. Keep your right hand where it is, and then slide your left hand underneath the armpit, palm facing upwards, stretching away. Bring the shoulder down onto the floor, bring your head down onto the floor. Keep both arms really firmly extending, pushing that left arm really firmly into the floor, and then try and roll the chest down to the floor. Extending deeply into your right arm, pressing that left arm really firmly into the floor so you open up, you almost prise open the shoulder blades. And then come back, sit back on your heels, stretching into Adho Mukha Virasana. Keep your left hand where you are, lift your head, thread the right hand underneath the right arm underneath the left elbow, bringing that right shoulder down, bringing your head down if you can, palm of that right hand facing the ceiling, and then stamp the hand into the floor, stamp the arm into the floor. Keep that left arm working in Virasana and roll the chest down to the floor. So even if you lose contact between the seat bones and the heels, see if you can Continue to lengthen down into the tailbone. And then just lengthen the arms, both arms out in front, and then come back into Adho Mukha Svanasana. And then release your arms, bring your arms to the sides of the body for the child's pose. If it becomes too heavy on your forehead, then consciously lengthen your arms from the shoulders into the fingertips. Just allow a little pressure on the forehead to quieten the brain, but keep your attention in the breath. Okay, bring your hands underneath your shoulders and then just bring yourself up, sit back on your heels again. Just observing the energy of the forehead. Good lightness of energy. And then just come down onto your back and come into Supta Baddha Konasana. Soles of the feet together. Knees apart. Just resting down into the floor. So if we do this pose passively, as in just letting gravity do its thing, there's always the danger that our mind drifts out of the body somewhere else. So you can activate the pose, or you can just focus your attention on the body's accommodation of the breath. So aim to make the in-breath and the out-breath the same length. So Samavriti Pranayama is just the evenness of the breath. That's the first stage anyway. Of course, if there's stiffness in your hips, then put blocks underneath your thighs to support them, but otherwise just allow the body into the floor. So count the breath. So if a full breath lasts for a count of 5, then make the out breath last for a count of 5. After focusing on that Samavriti breathing for a little while, maybe you realise you could increase the count, maybe to go from 5 to 6, or from 4 to 5, or from whatever you are, just a little more. So we're just working to allow the breath to drive the front brain, the mental body, the body of ambition and inspiration. So the front brain and the back brain. The front brain is the mental body, the back brain is the intellectual body. So the back brain is the observer, and when we employ the back brain, we become more engulfed in the pose. We move towards a practice of pratyahara, the withdrawal of the senses. Withdrawing of the senses. That doesn't mean that we become hermits and just lock ourselves away and never address the world. It means that we become conscious of our own physical being within the 3 dimensions of time and space. That we become conscious of being here, of doing things, of taking, of giving. We spend moments with our friends and loved ones, and we give ourselves to that moment. We draw our focus into the present moment, and we cherish the mundane and the special, just observing life as we live it, rather than carrying around the baggage of the past or being weighed down by the spectre of the future. We just exist in the present moment. And that doesn't mean that it gives us the right to be completely irresponsible with our energy, because what we do with our energy now is what we become. It's what we are. So now is the only significant moment. Gently draw your knees towards each other. Have your knees together, your feet apart. Just to observe the hips as they relax. And then just straighten out your legs, come up onto your elbows, and then just get a blanket for your head. Just make sure that it's evenly folded. Just guide ourselves down the center of the mat. Make sure you're in a good straight line. Just make sure you can stretch out. If you're wearing glasses, take them off just for a moment or two. Just close your eyes and just allow yourself to just release into the floor. Let go of the muscles of the arms and the legs. Consciously releasing so that the body becomes heavy on the ground. And observe that feeling of energetic lightness that radiates out from the bones and into the muscles, into the organ. Into the flesh and the skin, using your in-breath and your out-breath to evenly distribute that feeling of energetic lightness down into the tips of the toes, the tips of the fingers, the top of the head. When you're ready to disturb yourself, just gently wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, and then bend your knees, bring your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom. And then gently just roll over to your right side, just stay down for a breath or two. And then stretch out the top leg, come back up into a seated position. Just a final cross legs with your hands in the master, just a final spinal lift. Draw your breath in through your nose, down into the abdomen. Conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and twists and the reclining poses bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest, lifting the chest up to meet your chin. Just spend a moment to seek to acknowledge the positive energy you have created inside, and then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open. Just hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest, and then just very gently turn to the right side. Just feeling the fluidity of that movement. And then come back to the centre, lift up into the chest, turn to the left. And then gently come back to the centre. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel as though you have really elevated your energy and given yourself lots of good positive energy. That's the floor creaking, by the way. Thank you for joining me.